welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. We begin with some breaking news that's coming in at this hour. Now, the Justice Department of the United States of America has released a new batch of documents related to the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's investigation on Tuesday, with the latest batch mentioning Donald Trump in connection with flight records of Epstein's private jet, though authorities have not accused the US president of any criminal involvement. The release includes 30,000 pages with many redactions and dozens of video clips, some reportedly filmed inside a prison. Epstein was found dead in 2019 after an apparent or an alleged suicide in a New York jail. One of the Epstein documents includes an email stating that, and I quote, Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than has previously been reported or that we were aware of. The email, dated January 7, 2020, is part of a chain with the subject line, Epstein flight records. The sender and recipient are redacted, but the bottom of the email lists an assistant U.S. attorney from the Southern District of New York with the name also redacted. The email states that Trump was listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996. There are photographs that you can also see have been found in the Epstein files. The flights include flights with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a partner and friend of Jeffrey Epstein. So those are details that are coming in the recent and the latest details that have been out from the Epstein files. And Trump's name does surface in the flight details, wherein it says that Donald Trump took multiple flights between 93 and 96, many of those flights not on record or not known earlier. Well, the other big story we're tracking is Bangladesh and the violence, the instability that we're looking at in Bangladesh following protests after the death of prominent student leader Sharif Osman Hadi, and then the lynching of a Hindu Deepu Chandra Das. The country's chief advisor, Professor Mohammad Yunus, expressed his commitment to hold general elections on the 12th of February, as was announced earlier. The situation, though limping towards normalcy, remains uncertain. Yunus made the commitment during a telephonic conversation with Sergey Gore, the U.S. Special Envoy for South and Central Asia. Both of them spoke for about half an hour, discussing trade and tariffs, the upcoming general elections, and the killing of Sharif Osman Hadi. India Today is the only Indian channel right now on the ground, on ground zero. Our reporter Ashutosh Mishra traveled through the old Dhaka area where preparations have begun for the upcoming general elections to be held on the 12th of February. The country is also set to welcome 60-year-old Tariq Rehman, acting chairperson of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, that's BNP, and son of former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia.
I am now in the old Dhaka area, and this totally looks cleared up with the banner posters about the candidates, and several these stages have been prepared not only for the arrival of Tariq Rehman, but at the same time the candidates who are contesting from the different seats of Bangladesh. There's around 1.5 months left for the general elections and the voting for the referendum. The old Dhaka is absolutely turning political and wearing a political vibe.
Now, Tariq Rehman, son of former Premier of Bangladesh, Khaleda Zia, has been in exile or self-imposed exile in London for 18 years and is set to land in Dhaka on the 25th of December. Amidst the political chaos and critical physical condition of Khaleda Zia, the return of Rehman is being seen by the party as a relief and a lifeline. A retired brigadier general has been appointed chief security officer to oversee overall security arrangements for both Khaleda Zia and Tariq Rehman. Opinion polls say that the BNP is the front runner. A December poll by a US-based nonprofit, the International Republican Institute, shows the BNP leading with 30% support, followed by the Jamaat-e-Islami at 26%. Of course, Awami League is not present and may not be fighting these elections. The NCP, which aims to contest all 300 seats in third place with support of just 6%, a survey by the Pratham Alo newspaper found that 47% of respondents believe that Tariq Rehman will be the next Prime Minister of Bangladesh.
Our leader Tariq Rehman had to stay out of the country in the national interest because he's popular and established leader. It was necessary for him to stay away, and it's time now for him to return. Once he returns, he will lead our democratic movement. If people choose BNP and its leadership in the coming elections, Tariq Rehman will accept the role to uphold the country's sovereignty, freedom and democracy. We will build good relations with our neighbors and uphold our rights in global platforms. He will work for the good of the people and the country, and that's what his politics stands for.
And our reporter Ashutosh Mishra is in Dhaka. India Today is the only Indian channel right now on the ground reporting from Dhaka, where violence ensues. Ashutosh, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've seen your dispatches, but despite condemnation from UNIS government, fresh attacks continue. What is the ground assessment there? And is Dhaka doing anything to assure safety for the minorities and Indian diplomats?
Well, clearly something that is the biggest failure looks like at the Dr. Yunus administration is the containing the fundamentalists. And since 1.5 years, we have seen many of these pockets, not only talking about Dhaka, but Chittagong remains vulnerable, as we have seen one of in the remote areas of Chittagong, one Hindu family where they attacked, the house was burned, they somehow escaped. So the biggest failure at the moment looks like how Dr. Yunus and their administration has not been to assure the Hindus of the safety and security. In fact, the UN probe committee that was also formed, but eventually all of these efforts and nothing could work actually. But at the same time, we see all the assurances are only coming, looks like only a hollow. But when it comes to really providing and ensuring protection of the Bangladeshi national, primarily the Hindus, minority Hindus, that has remained only in the words as far as assurance is concerned. We see only and only the atrocities rising, and there is a number of such cases across Bangladesh, particularly in the remote areas.
Right. Ashutosh, protests in India and anti-India sentiments in Bangladesh. Are age-old ties with Bangladesh now at a break point?
Well, as far as ties between India and Bangladesh is concerned, that looks like soaring and perhaps all-time low. The way we are seeing the escalation, both the sides, war of words, the embassy shutting down their visa services, the protests escalating, be it the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi or the Indian High Commission in Dhaka, Rajshahi, Chittagong, and eventually the services being shut down. All the embassies are being protected heavily by the security force, both the sides. That looks like a diplomatic standoff has taken a quite high. In fact, I've been asking to the BNP leaders, as it is estimated that probably that will be the party will be coming to power in Bangladesh, and Tariq Rehman, who would be the next Prime Minister, that what will be the first challenge when it comes to restoring the Indo-Bangladesh relationship. The effort says it will be mutual, it will be on consensus, it will be with the mutual respect of each other, and that remains. We'll have to see how they are going to, because once it is sore, and clearly when you have a catalyst factor of the fundamentalists, then you have the catalyst factor like ISI and Pakistan playing between the India-Pakistan relationship. So there are many such hurdles, and that looks like only will be possible when there is a new government formed after the elections, a democratic government, and then there will be something that will be initiated from both the sides.
Right. Ashutosh Mishra, thank you so much for joining us. We'll keep coming back to you for all the details and latest from Dhaka. Now, shifting focus and staying on Donald Trump and the Epstein files, the U.S. Justice Department released partially redacted Epstein-related documents, sparking criticism and online backlash. Social media users mocked the heavy redactions with memes, including jokes involving Donald Trump and other public figures, while the DOJ said the edits were meant to protect victims' identities.
The U.S. Department of Justice has partially released in public documents and photographs related to the Epstein case. But most of these evidences are redacted. The Department of Justice drew the ire and criticism of Democrats and families of victims. But the social media users, in their unique style, took a jibe at the DOJ. Memes flooded on social media sites as the DOJ defended its action as protecting the identities of the victims. One of the users remarked that the redacted documents looked like as if taxes are being filed for the next year. Another user wrote, "Redacted States of America."
Excuse me.
But it did not stop at that. Remember US President Donald Trump's cameo in Home Alone? A user used a clip of Trump from the movie and redacted his face. Another person redacted Trump's face from a picture taken during one of his campaigns, saying MAGA is like that could be anybody. A separate meme stated, "Why does my milk got the Epstein files on it?" Earlier, the Department of Justice restored the photographs of the US President Donald Trump, which were removed as the department claimed the photo flagged by the Southern District of New York for potential further action to protect victims. The image showed a desk with an open drawer containing a photo of Trump with various women. The other famed personalities whose photographs have been part of the Epstein files include Michael Jackson with President Bill Clinton and Diana Ross. Bill Clinton, who is seen in a tub, and also painting of Clinton in a dress. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
US President Donald Trump announced plans for the Navy to begin building a new class of battleship that he said would be larger, faster, and 100 times more powerful than the biggest of any previous US-built warship. The new class of battleship will be part of a larger vision that Trump dubbed as the Golden Fleet. As per reports from the WSJ, the ships will replace the Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers and cost around $5 billion each. They will weigh 30,000 to 40,000 tons and will have the capacity for hosting futuristic technology like directed energy lasers and railguns. The president was speaking from Palm Beach, Florida, where he is staying for the Christmas holidays. He was joined by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Signs next to the president depicted artistic renderings of the first ship of the new line, the Trump-class USS Defiant. This type of ship found prominence during World War II, but after the war, the role of the battleships diminished as aircraft carriers and long-range missiles were inducted in the modern fleet.
Welcome to Mar-a-Lago for this exciting announcement of the new Golden Fleet. We're calling it the Golden Fleet that we're building for the United States Navy. As you know, we're desperately in need of ships. Our ships some of them have gotten old and tired and obsolete, and we're going to go the exact opposite direction. And again, it's 100 times more powerful than the previous Iowa class, it's called. Those are the big ones that you'd see on a show. Victory at Sea. I don't know if anyone's seen Victory at Sea, but it was a classic. They'll help maintain American military supremacy, revive the American shipbuilding industry, and inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it. We're more respected now than we ever were.
Senior journalist Sandeep Unathan joins me to break down what this really means, Sandeep. Before we get to what the fleet is and the strength and why and what of it, the fact that maybe in recent modern history of America, this could be the first time that a warship or a fleet in itself is being named after the President of the United States of America.
Well, absolutely, Geeta. And, you know, there has been a tradition, in fact, of naming ships after presidents, but it's usually after they've demitted office and much later. In fact, you have the Gerald Ford class, which is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. It's the largest carrier in the world. In fact, it's named after a former US president. You have the Ronald Reagan, of course, and you have the George W. Bush, and you have the George Bush aircraft carrier. So it's nothing new. But, you know, it's rare for a US president, a sitting US president, to name a class of ships after himself while he's in office. I mean, these kind of things are usually reserved for much after he's moved on. And it's usually carried out by his successors. But, you know, that's Trump for you. He's the person who's defied all conventions and all norms and very unabashedly named this new class of guided missile battleships after himself.
Right. Sandeep, the USS Defiant, this is the Trump class we're talking about. Is it going to be as defiant? And what is the reason, purpose for this fleet? When will it be commissioned? Are we looking at the Indo-Pacific, security of the Indo-Pacific specifically, or is it specific to China? I know I'm broad-basing it, but just, just to understand.
Well, Geeta, it's really all of the above. And, while the US has the most powerful navy in the world, the United States Navy is equal to the next 5 navies combined or 6 navies combined. They are conscious of the fact that the PLA Navy is gaining very rapidly, and the PLA Navy has the maximum number of ships in terms of numbers. They have over 300 battle force ships. But the US Navy is ahead in terms of tonnage of ships because they have some of the largest aircraft carriers in the world. They have 11 Nimitz and Ford class super carriers that are over 100,000 tons displacement each. So the United States has been looking at replacing some of its old warships of the Arleigh-Burke class, destroyers and cruisers of the last 20 or 30 years. And they've been trying very hard to do that. They recently cancelled the Constellation class, which was supposed to be this new common generation frigate program. That was cancelled. So there's a bit of a flux right now because given the kind of technologies that are coming in, large capital ships are, literally they've reached the end of the road, and for a very big reason, because you have hypersonic missiles, you have satellites, drones, long-range unmanned surface vessels. We just saw one of the largest ships in the world to be sunk after the Second World War. That's the Moskva. That's the Black Sea Fleet flagship of the Russian Federation that was sunk by the Ukraine in 2022. So there's a big debate on whether large ships are literally on their way out. Capital ships are on the way out. And Trump has decided to go in the other direction by going in for this very, very big guided missile battleship class. But
Sandeep, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. $5 billion a ship. And we were just discussing the Pentagon report where they say they cannot fight China and sustain a war with China because their aircraft carriers, their ships are expensive and can be sunk easily.
So Geeta, the United States has been here before. More than 3 decades ago, they had plans for a class of ships called the Arsenal ship. Now, the Arsenal ship is a gigantic ship. It has pretty much the same dimensions as this so-called Trump class, the USS Defiant. Now, the Arsenal ship was meant to be a very large ship that would carry something like 500 vertically launched missiles. It was literally a floating arsenal that would pound enemy targets, coastal targets, basically, with hundreds of missiles. That Arsenal ship was in fact killed by US Congress over 3 decades ago simply because it was so expensive. At that point, more than 3 decades ago, it was $500 million. And Congress said there's no way we can afford a class of ships that are so expensive. There was a plan very similar to this so-called Trump class of between 20 and 30 Arsenal ships. Now, it's very clear that the Trump class of ships, it plans to brazen it out by saying that we are going to load this ship with so many defensive measures that they can shoot down drones, they can shoot down hypersonic missiles, etc., etc., etc. So it's very difficult to imagine these coming to fruition, just as the Arsenal ship was cancelled 3 decades ago.
Right. Sandeep Unithan, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective and also breaking it down for our viewers. Thank you. Now, senior Republican leader Vivek Ramaswamy responded to the online abuse toward U.S. Second Lady Usha Vance. Ramaswamy drew sharp red lines against extremism, conspiracy theories, and personal attacks within the American conservative movement. He was speaking at the event of Turning Point USA's America Fest. Ramaswamy, who is also an Ohio GOP gubernatorial candidate, referred to extremist figure Nick Fuentes and warned that those using racist slurs have no place in conservatism. Fuentes used the derogatory term "Jeet" against Vice President J.D. Vance's wife on the talk show Piers Morgan Uncensored. Jeet is a slur aimed at Indians in general. Meanwhile, US President J.D. Vance, too, strongly condemned racist and sexist attacks targeting his wife, Usha Vance. He also asserted that ethnic hatred has no place in conservative movement. In an interview with Unheard, Vance responded to Fuentes and former press secretary during the Biden administration, Jen Psaki's remarks.
Believe, and you will forgive me for giving you an exact quote from our online commentator Nick Fuentes, if you believe that Hitler was pretty fucking cool, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. You could debate foreign aid to Israel all you want. That's fine. That's fair. But you have no place with that level of hatred. You could debate the right resolution of the Russia-Ukraine war, but if you believe Joseph Stalin is someone to look up to, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. If you call Usha Vance the Second Lady of the United States of America a Jeet, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement. And if you can't say those things without stuttering, then you have no place as a leader at any level in the conservative movement either. Certainly not in my state of Ohio.
From nuclear reform to regional outrage, India's Shanti Bill has redrawn the strategic map and triggered alarm not in global capitals, but in Islamabad, a country, Pakistan, that has no standing when it comes to nuclear proliferation and now is speaking about India. We break down what Pakistan is doing and why it's doing so on Statecraft this evening. India has just cracked open one of the most secretive doors of the Indian state, its nuclear sector. With the Shanti Bill, New Delhi has rewritten a 60-year-old rule book, ending monopoly, inviting private participation, and signaling nuclear confidence to the world. But even before the ink could dry, there was outrage, not in Vienna, not in Washington, but in Islamabad. A country drowning in debt, harboring world's most wanted terrorists, and burdened by one of the darkest nuclear proliferation scandals in history, is suddenly concerned about India's nuclear safety. So as India reforms its atomic future, we ask why Pakistan, of all countries, is trying to sound the alarm. And more importantly, whose nuclear program should the world really be worried about? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. On the 15th of December, the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill, or Shanti Bill 2025, was tabled in the Lok Sabha. If fully enacted by Parliament, it will repeal the Atomic Energy Act 1962 and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010, laws seen as barriers to investment and innovation in India's nuclear landscape. Under Shanti, private companies incorporated in India can engage in diverse nuclear pursuits, including fuel fabrication, transportation, and storage of spent fuel, and import-export of prescribed nuclear equipment. Foreign-controlled entities, however, will remain barred from holding licenses. Sensitive domains like fuel enrichment, reprocessing, and heavy water production remain firmly under government control. Now, significantly, the bill caps liability for nuclear incidents at 300 million special drawing rights, roughly aligned with international norms, and establishes statutory status for the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, bolstering oversight and safety. Pakistan's objections come against a backdrop of its own nuclear history, a history marred by scandal, illicit proliferation, and chronic opacity. At the heart of this story is Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan, the metallurgist who helped build Pakistan's bomb and then exported the very technologies that powered nuclear proliferation. By contrast, India's nuclear trajectory has been transparent, structured, and tightly regulated under international safeguards. India earned a waiver from the Nuclear Suppliers Group in 2008 because of its clean, non-proliferation record, civil-military separation of facilities, and adherence to safety protocols, privileges Pakistan has never secured. Unlike India, which maintains a declared no first-use policy, Pakistan's doctrine remains deliberately ambiguous, and its strategic posture is built on tactical weapons and battlefield nuclear options rather than far-ranging deterrence. Beyond words, there's evidence of genuine concern among global analysts about the cohesion and reliability of Pakistan's nuclear decision-making, especially when political instability, internal fractures, and competing power centers intersect with the highest stakes imaginable, atomic weapons. So let's be clear about what the world is witnessing. India opens its nuclear sector with laws, liability caps, regulators, and international safeguards, and Pakistan responds with lectures. A country whose bomb was built through smuggling, whose technology was sold to rogue regimes, whose economy survives on begging bowls, and whose nuclear arsenal sits under the shadow of jihadi rhetoric, now claims the moral high ground. If global watchdogs are truly worried about nuclear safety, they might want to look west of India's borders, at a state that lied for decades, proliferated in secret, and still refuses transparency. Because the real danger to the world is not India reforming its nuclear energy sector. The danger is pretending Pakistan's nuclear record deserves to be taken seriously. Thank you for watching Statecraft. That's all in this edition of India Today Global. But before I go, here are some visuals. Vice President J.D. Vance joined Navy SEALs for an intense 90-minute beach workout featuring running, rope climbing, and log carrying exercises that left the VP feeling like he got hit by a freight train. It's goodbye from me.